Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody listening and watching wherever and whenever this podcast finds you. Thanks for tuning in and welcome to the Bitcoin Weekly Wrap-Up for the 29th of November 2019. This week's Wrap-Up is once again sponsored by eToro. It's a very cool platform to buy, sell, and trade Bitcoin and other crypto assets safely and securely. They existed prior to Bitcoin by quite a few years. And since then, they have, in the last year, broke into the U.S. market, and they've created some really new and innovative tools for both newbies and advanced traders. So one of the cool things for new people is if you're unsure of your trading strategy, you can actually practice with their virtual trading platform, which allows you to basically trade with virtual money on real order books. And another one is copy trading, which just went live within the last month or so. And this allows you to find advanced traders out there that know what they're doing. You can allocate a portion of your portfolio, whether it's 1, 5, 10, 20%, whatever you want. And every time that they make a trade, it will actually trade in your portfolio to balance out. If they're trading, 10% of their portfolio in Bitcoin and 20% in Ethereum or whatever it may be, it allocates the percentage of your portfolio you've sent to them and does the same thing. If you are new, this allows you to take advantage of the expertise that an advanced trader may have. If you're an advanced trader, this basically allows you to increase your portfolio that you're trading with to an even larger degree. Everybody wins in that. You get a little piece of whatever you make for them, and they get the benefit of your experience. If you go to didyouknowcrypto.com, that's didyouknowcrypto.com/eToro, E-T-O-R-O, and you do a minimum deposit around $200, you'll actually get $50 for free. Once again, everybody wins. That's didyouknowcrypto.com/eToro. So, how's everybody doing today? I am actually, if you're watching, you get to see me drink a little bit of my tea in my 1995 McDonald's Batman Forever Riddler cup. And as you know, that is really the only choice to drink any beverage out of, for adults. So, you can pick them up for about $16 on eBay, but I got mine from my childhood, so enjoy. If we actually look at the price right now, since the last weekly wrap-up, Bitcoin's price has jumped back up to around $7,500 to $7,600 this week. And right now, as of recording on the 28th of November 2019, it's sitting at $74.82. So the first story that we're going to be talking about is Ripple. Ripple's back in the news. Their partnership with MoneyGram, which is a Western Union competitor, has been well advertised and promoted by Ripple throughout the last few years. And the use case has been simply the use of Ripple's X-Rapid technology for the settle of cross-border remittances through MoneyGram. Basically, if you want to send $100 from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where we know everybody's chilling. If you don't know that reference, Google it. If you want to send it from Cedar Rapids to someone, say, in Guatemala, you'd go to a MoneyGram Center, or online, whichever you prefer. Input your debit, credit, bank account information, and that it would then, whatever that $100 would be charged against your account and sent through the X-Rapid network in Ripple, and the person on the other end would receive the dollars or pesos, whatever. They would interact with, but they would never actually touch Ripple. Ripple announced that they had recently made, I believe it was on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, they'd made a $50 million investment in MoneyGram, receiving just short of 10% of the outstanding stock in MoneyGram with no voting interest. In part, MoneyGram agreed to use that investment to implement more of the X-Rapid network throughout their own network. And, Ripple has been, over the last few years in an ever-increasingly disadvantageous network, disadvantageous position as banks have been experimenting and or creating their own networks. And this just diminishes the use case for Ripple. their main use case has always been is they've really not focused on, we want to do what, say, like Bitcoin Cash or Litecoin has said, like pay with, right? Their focus has been on, basically being the kind of thing in between what banks do with each other and with the larger economy. And their only hope really lies in creating a robust, widespread network that makes it basically more efficient to adopt it versus creating their own or using another Ripple competitor's network. So the other option for them is basically taking this large amount of money that they have accumulated through speculators and investors and all this other kind of stuff and start investing that money that they have in more tangible assets, more tangible things before this experiment fades away. Buying stock in a company like MoneyGram, I don't necessarily think that's the best investment, but whatever, is still a better thing than watching their amount of money that they've raised slowly ebb away into nothing. The next story is on the Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Justin Muzinich, who in a speech to the Clearinghouse and Banking Institute issued a warning to the crypto industry specifically against privacy coins or privacy currencies. In the speech, he called attention to many of the same tropes and concerns that have been leveled against Bitcoin in the wider industry since they first really took notice of Bitcoin, that being money laundering, terrorism, working around regulations and things like that. He reiterated, though, that regardless of the use of fiat or cryptocurrencies, entities have to abide by U.S. specifically, but also world financial regulations. But he was concerned that the rise of alternatives, such as Bitcoin or other things like Monero or whatever, would lead to evading existing regulatory frameworks. It's kind of what they're there for. But he specifically called concerned over these anonymous, quote-unquote, anonymous cryptocurrencies. That if they were grow to scale, they would create a scenario where their ability, the U.S. Treasury and world government's ability to regulate it would become moot, really just unable to do so in any really cohesive way like they do with banking and the financial industry currently. He ended the speech with a warning that they would be taking a very hard look at these issues. In regulator speak, that means that they're starting to tighten the net a little bit, and the hammer's going to start falling with regulations, laws, with going after people criminally in courts, and also kind of putting more onerous regulation requirements on people in the industry. But what does this mean, though? I'm a Bitcoin guy, and while I find that there are other interesting applications and or tech experiments in other competitors, I'm a Bitcoiner purely for the fact that Bitcoin can adapt these technologies to itself, negating really the use case if they are proven to function at scale and or that they're useful and wanted by users. So that, once again, just kind of negates the competitor's use case. The Treasury Department and regulators around the world can issue all the requirements, all the laws, all the penalties, all the threats that they want, but there's still no way that they, no matter what they do, that's going to stop you from sending me Bitcoin. And I ask you to do that with a lot of it, if you could. If you go to didyouknowcrypto.com, I have little buttons where you can donate various different cryptocurrencies. And I really encourage you to donate as much as possible. I'm kidding aside, but it does help keep the lights on, so to speak. Literally, if you're watching, these studio lights were bought, specifically for this. So anyways, I digress. These laws and regulations will affect Bitcoin-related companies, not Bitcoin, but Bitcoin-related companies like exchanges and other companies that kind of operate within the network. Bitcoin removed the need for third-party intermediaries to send value across the network. Only third parties can actually be leveraged and coerced by an entity, whether it's government or corporations, to comply with their will. As laws become more draconian, the need for the disintermediation of these third parties will provide incentives to provide the market with these disintermediated entities. Bitcoin has let the genie out of the bottle. It has cut these mental anchors that we have in our mind and other people's minds throughout the world that made them, consider trusted third parties to be basically a presumed necessity. And now kind of the sky's the limit of like, how much can we actually disintermediate trusted third parties? Not just in Bitcoin. That's one, like, to me, that's one of the biggest things that Bitcoin has provided the world is like, really, like, how do we really need all these trusted third parties? Not just in finance, but elsewhere. It's just this really philosophical cutting of the anchors. But we could, we've discussed that in other episodes, so I won't go belabor that right now. But by flexing their political and regulatory muscles, really the faster they are going to speed up this process of kind of creating the scenario of their own irrelevance. So a common variety of the comfrey plant, specifically Russian Backing 14 and stuff that I have around my property. This basically, it doesn't spread through seeds, but it spreads through root cuttings. So even like one small 1-inch piece of root will sprout and grow. And if you ever actually attempt to like dig out comfrey, it spreads farther every year. So if you dig out like the main taproot and the crown, like the main like kind of stem of the plant out of the ground, you basically create 100 new sprouts because all those chunks of roots that you've now cut off from the main plant. Sorry, my water pump just went on. But if you hear that in the background, but every bit that you when you cut out that main taproot and the main crown, you create like all these little chunks of the roots that are still left. There's like 100 new sprouts will grow up and create a larger, more robust patch of the plant with their own taproots, with their own crowns. You try to cut those out. Now you create even more and more and more as it spreads farther and farther. So it'll spread over time if you cut out pieces of the roots and leave them around. But if you just actually try to manually go in there and remove it, and the harder you get, you take a cultivator or whatever, and you actually try to till the ground up with a tiller, not a cultivator. If you take like a tiller that actually churns up the soil, you'll do an even worse job. So that the more hardcore really you go in on trying to remove this thing, the more it spreads and the more robust that whole plant network actually becomes over time. So draconian regulatory rules will create stronger and stronger incentives to disintermediate those kind of basically elements of interaction in the Bitcoin network that have become the weak links in the chain until either the attacker relents and accepts the inevitable, or there's really nothing left for them to attack. Next story, we're going to be talking, you guys probably heard about this as well, but if you didn't, so one of the larger crypto exchanges in Korea, Upbit, was hacked, right? And they lost $49 million in Ethereum at the current value as of Wednesday when it was attacked. About 30 minutes after the Ether was actually sent out from the exchange, Upbit closed down, withdrawals, and they cited server maintenance and everything like that. And then they later announced that actually it wasn't really server maintenance. I guess technically you can make that case, but they announced the hack to the world and its users. And what's been noted is actually over $100 million has actually been sent out of Upbit since the attack. But the exchange has claimed this is due to them moving various cryptocurrencies out of hot wallets and into cold ones while they investigate how this happened, which makes sense. You don't want a bunch of stuff sitting in hot wallets that can be sent out if this attacker is more pervasive and has more access to the system than they realize. They've told users as well that their ability will be for withdrawals would be suspended for about 2 weeks, but that they're also going to cover the losses with their own funds. Basically, you're not going to see any kind of haircut in that. If you had, like BTCE did this when they got about 50% of their funds were taken by the U.S. Justice Department when they gained control of their servers and the website, and they basically just issued people. Everybody just took a 50% haircut. They issued kind of nominal tokens. So if you had a whole Bitcoin on there, you only had half a Bitcoin left, and you got a half a Bitcoin and roughly a token representation of what was lost, but they're actually going to just, everybody's balance is supposedly going to stay the same. But if they do cover, we don't, like they've said they're going to, but are they actually going to? Probably. But even if they do cover the losses, which is good on them for doing so, and should be done since it was their fault, people need to remember that none of the stuff that they have on these exchanges is actually covered by any sort of insurance, at least on Upbit or the majority of exchanges. Larger institutions like Bakkt, and I believe that Coinbase has, for some of their users, is insuring some of their holdings on there, but there a lot of companies are trying to like fit this niche, but it's really hard to do so because, as you've seen, the ability, this is like the 9th hack this year of various exchanges, and it's really hard to insure this stuff. Not hard to insure. It makes it very difficult for anybody to want to insure just because of the nature of Bitcoin and how easy it is to, if you hack an exchange, to get this stuff out of there. In the future, this will become more commonplace, but for now, please, please, please be careful with your wealth. Don't leave stuff on exchanges. If you aren't an active trader, get your Bitcoin and whatever else you got off now. Use a low mining fee, get it out of get it out of there onto at least a hardware wallet or something that you control. If you do actually actively trade markets, make sure you pull out whatever you don't actively trade, because no real professional trader is all in on any given period, or any successful trader in a long enough time period goes all in all the time. And for the small price of mining fees to get stuff in and out of there, it's a lot cheaper than losing everything that you have. So just please be careful. The last story is about Coinbase's automated KYC, which is Know Your Customer, an AML, anti-money laundering tool that will basically allow them to, they patented this tool. They haven't implemented it yet, but allow them to basically, through some sort of algorithm, review accounts based on a variety of factors, including your personal data, your usage, which is, things like where your deposits have come from, where your withdrawals go, and maybe who you're associated with through other KYC and AML companies out there that do map your social profiles and things like that, and allow them to automatically suspend and flag accounts, and then forward those flags, if it meets certain criteria, onto law enforcement authorities if you're suspected of doing anything illegal or associating with illegal activity, or anybody that's known to kind of be involved in nefarious activities. This is not, like I said, been implemented in Coinbase yet, but they've been always pretty ruthless in shutting down accounts without explanation. I had this exact thing happen to me. I had a Coinbase account since 2013, and without any notice in 2017, probably been around September-ish, they shut down my account. No notice beforehand or anything like that. And I was told to remove my Bitcoin, just like they basically, when you try to log in, said it's been shut down, and it takes you to a page that said, here's, what assets that you still have. Whether, if you had like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin or whatever, it's basically saying input a withdrawal address, and then you do all that stuff and you take it out. I had multiple email requests, and they're a little bit better now, I guess, than they were in 2017, but they were absolutely terrible. So multiple email requests went unanswered, or at the very best, towards the end, I got basically another stock email reply that just reiterated the same thing that they'd sent me in the original email, just saying, we hold the right to shut down accounts at any notice, blah, 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 never telling me what I did wrong. The only thing that I think matches or makes sense of why they did it is that on one occasion I'd sent Bitcoin to the now defunct BTCE exchange. This was an old school exchange, been around for a very long time, which is kind of why I went on to it. I was like, well, if they have a runoff with people's money by now, why not? They had pretty low fees for trading, and the troll box, if you guys have not been on some of these exchanges, troll box, which is just like a chat board, was hilarious, and I just, anyways, whatever. I just had a small amount on there. And It was actually later seized. I had mentioned this actually in the last story by the U.S. Justice Department, since they believed that there was somebody that was a big part of that exchange, or at least the people who ran it knew about it, and was laundering stolen Mt. Gox Bitcoin through it, and like a lot of it or most of it. Likely Coinbase flagged known BTC deposit addresses as being suspicious and criteria for suspending accounts. It would have been nice if they would have said something, because I would have gone, because at that time nobody knew that there was anything goofy going around with them. But whatever. So I believe that they have had policies like this for a long time, but are now looking to automate the process. This frees up time and money versus kind of doing this manually. And I do sympathize with Coinbase and others like them. I remember Shapeshift got a lot of shade for implementing, I think it was in 2018, implementing KYC. I also sympathize with kind of the Bitcoiner, the hardcore Bitcoiner position as well. But, when, of this idea of like, no, just, the idea of making this the norm should not be what any principal company does. But when you're a CEO of a company, you have a duty to your employees, right? And if you have the choice of either shuttering the company, putting all these people out of work, or abide by the law, or say no, and then you just go to jail and you haven't proven anything, and do it like Irwin Schiff did, which was say, I don't think income taxes are right, and then just die in jail. I don't know how much promotion of liberty and freedom you're really doing when you aren't there to raise your kids and kind of do any other impactful work. Other people disagree with that, but that's kind of my feeling. So I realize why they will do things like this. But like I mentioned in the very first article as well, with the U.S. Treasury, every bit of friction introduced by these regulations is providing more incentive for creation of the replacements of these intermediaries, right? So by participating and all that, all they're doing is creating more of an incentive for someone to replace them with something much better. But anyways, that's it for this week's weekly wrap-up. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching. Please, if you're on YouTube, you can go and subscribe, and what will be the lower right-hand corner. If you're watching on a tablet or desktop, there'll be a little red icon that says subscribe. If you're on mobile, just right below basically the definitions or descriptions, it'll say subscribe. Click that. Also, click the little bell. You get notifications every time that I post a new video, which I'm doing a lot of. I post my interviews, which are currently audio only. I'm working on doing video versions of them. My weekly wrap-up is both video and audio, depending whatever you want. And I'm also been posting up some how to do kind of DIY podcast stuff, recording boxes, things like that. Creating your own studio that's completely encased in foam and all that other good stuff. So just kind of documenting what I've been doing on increasing how the studio's quality and everything like that. And if you're on podcasts listening, please go to iTunes, leave a 5-star and a written review. It helps out immensely. It really, really does. I really beg you to do that. I shouldn't say beg, but I'd really appreciate it. And also go to supportmypodcast.com. You can find other ways to support the podcast, but if you click on listener-supported discounts, you can find a variety of discounts from Trezor and KeepKey wallets to Bitcoin art to Bitcoin tax software to health food products, things like Onnit, which make a really, really cool supplements, things that I use, MCT oils and Alpha Brain, which I think is a really great mental clarifier. We're adding new ones constantly, so go over there and do that, and give a big thanks to my sponsor, eToro, who makes all this possible. Go to didyouknowcrypto.com/eToro to sign up. Through that link, that lets them know that you came through me, but you also get $50. So, everybody's kind of, once again, winning in this scenario. So, lastly, though, I'd like to thank you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, for watching and for subscribing. If you're listening, thank you for listening. You guys really do actually make all this possible, because if I had nobody listening, I would quit. There's no really point in kind of screaming into the ether if no one wants to listen. So thank you for taking time out of your day to actually listen. Please reach out through all my various social media links, whatever is more conducive and more preferable for you. Email me directly if you have ideas for episodes, if you have criticisms. I really appreciate criticisms, and I really appreciate just talking to you guys. So if you just want to chat, feel free. and I always get back to everybody that contacts me. So have a great night or day or morning, whatever it may be, and thanks for listening.